Im eshkachech Yerushalayim Oy tishkach Yemini Tidvak Lishoyni Lechi Ki Imnoy Eskirechi Im lo yaleh Es Yerushalayim Harosh Simchasi Im lo yaleh Es Yerushalayim Arosh Simchasi.
And that was Im Eshkakesh by Lev Tahor. Welcome, everybody. I am absolutely thrilled that you are joining us today for a very special edition of our broadcast, What Now, with Donald Willinger and myself, Rabbi Shlomo Nachman. Today we have a very special guest with us, Pesach Kirschner. Many of you have seen Pesach posting before. We've been friends on Facebook for many years. He's also quite active himself in various things that he's done. He's done interviews and all kinds of stuff. Pesach is a 9/11 responder who was disabled by the attack on the tower. He has worked in Israel as a hero, as a border guard. He has worked in America as a hero. He has done amazing, amazing things. What we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to keep everything under control and a very nice presentation for you all. I want to begin by introducing Pesach, and of course Donald Willinger is here with us as always. And we're going to spend the first few minutes talking about his experiences on 9/11. What it was like to be there on 9/11, what he saw, what he heard, what he felt, what he did as a responder. And that will take us into what happened to Pesach as a result of this tragedy. As we go forward, as always, I invite your questions and your comments on the chat screen. And I think this is going to be an absolutely incredible broadcast. Donald, let's start with you. I want to say welcome, my friend. I'm glad that you're here as always.
As always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you, Rabbi. I want to say good morning to our guest and to everyone in the audience. Please do ask your questions this morning, especially, Pesach survived 9/11. Some fire people did not. Some officers did not. Many lives were lost. And so do feel free to ask questions. And this'll just be a lot nicer.
Yeah. And if you have time, please also go to your pages and share this broadcast with your friends and let everybody know what we're doing today. So, Pesach, my friend, welcome to Now What with Rabbi Shlomo and Donald Willinger. Glad you're here.
Shalom Achi.
So, like I said, I want to sort of start at the beginning. So, you were living in New York. What were you doing in New York prior to the attack on the towers that you ended up being there?
Well, I was RDO. I worked at CMC per diem, which is St. Vincent's Catholic Medical Center in the village. My typical cold day were HIV patients, who were pretty seriously ill and immunocompromised. So, my hazmat training certainly came into play every day there. But that day in particular was very weird. I was RDO. I was with a group of friends. They were RDO.
Oh, what does
We go on a fishing
what does RDO mean?
regular day off.
Okay.
We to go for. My friend had a 55-footer. He worked really hard to get it. Then he had to do a lot of restoration on it, but it was seaworthy. So we were provisioning up for a day at sea of fishing and beer, and I was the designated skipper for the day. Around 9:11, 9:12, we get paged. We had pocket pagers in those days. And Tower 1 was struck, then Tower 2, and it's like we're looking at each other and, we were should we pull out or not? But my pager went off for my job, single hands. At that point, I said, we got to go. And they said, but we're RDO. No, we got to go. This is going to be major. Trust me. Fishing trip canceled. We were in Howard Beach, so we had a direct view of the towers. They were both smoking. We could see them at a distance. I hit my lights and siren. My mother did get a call through saying not to go. And I said, I have no choice. I got, so I was trying to figure out the best way to get to Manhattan fastest. And I said, well, I don't have my equipment, so I have to get something. So I went to my volunteer ambulance corps where I was an EMT instructor in Bed-Stuy. And I said, where's the commander? He's on dialysis. I said, that's a good place for him to be. He's trying to get off of it now. I said, tell him to finish. I'm going to take a unit. Give me some trainees and a couple of EMTs. So we went. I took one unit. We drove up Broadway, the opposite direction, and by 9:35 I got there, and you were walking wounded everywhere. We had guys grabbing their chests in pain, cops carrying firemen carrying cops carrying regular civilians and each other. I mean, it was a pretty bad scene. And at that point, the North Tower was still up. The South Tower already came down when I got there. And I started ferrying patients to St. Vincent's because Beekman was shut down already. That's the first hospital in the line of hospitals in Manhattan. After St. Vincent's filled up, I made 4 trips, just dropping people off, filling up the crew bench, filling up the seats. And I had volunteers with their trauma bags, helping people on the way, trying to find ambulances to put them into. And I was just going back and forth. I think I made 4 or 5 trips, and that was it. And the last trip I made, I was by the North Tower on Broadway and Vesey again, and I was 8 blocks away, and I heard explosions. I said, "What?" And then it was 20 seconds later. It was pulverized, literally coming down. And I yelled, "Okay, shut the vents." The dust cloud hit. It dissipated a little bit. I was in a state of shock, but I had a bunch of patients I had to care for, so I had no time to freak out over it. So I just hit my drive gear and headed straight. One of the injured, because it was a open compound fracture of the femur. Guy was losing a lot of blood. I said, he's going to Bellevue at that point. Yeah, I couldn't even get through the radio to get a standby on it. So we just got there and unloaded. By the time I got back, everything was done, basically. A few hours later, he called a recovery effort. And that was it. There was nobody left to save after 11 o'clock.
So most of the people that you were helping were already on the street, or did you go into the tower and bring people out?
No, most of the people were on the street. Deep down inside, I had a gut feeling not to. And but I had to send people in because I had a radio call that some firefighters was stuck on the 18th and 19th floor trying to bring patients down. So I said, I need a couple of EMTs or paramedics to go in, and I sent a few people in, because I had captain's bars. So I had to live with that for years.
That's just unbelievable. So you were gone carrying people over to Bellevue before, and the second tower collapsed while you were away?
No, I was there. I was there when the North Tower came down. I saw the North Tower. The South Tower was already down.
You saw the plane hit the North Tower, or what did you
No, I did
see?
not. No, I just saw the smoking and I heard the explosions 20 seconds before. It's like it sounded like they were in a series. Is what it sounded like.
Okay,
like controlled demolition. That's what I heard. And if you look at all the NIST videos, you could hear every firefighter say the same thing.
That's part of what I'm wondering, because you were there. So it wasn't just one huge crash from a plane hitting; it was repeated, like a demolition.
No, the burning took a while. You have to understand, the steel in the World Trade Center was reinforced with asbestos. And it was the strongest type of tensile steel you could think of. Jet fuel does not burn at the melting point of that steel. Might weaken it a little, but it's not okay. But the tower should not have imploded. They should have went down either this way, that way, but not straight down.
And you did specifically hear several different explosions, like bam, bam, bam.
And it's like a machine gun, like a fully automatic weapon, basically, but very loud. You can't mistake it.
What were you told was going on at the time?
We were told that the planes, it was planes. It's obvious, but it most likely was. Well, I didn't see any wreckage at all of the aircraft, which was the weirdest part of it all. And we were trying to dig into crevices where people could be. We had the search and rescue dogs. We had the sound detection equipment, the sound probes. We had infrared gear. We had everything we needed. But basically, the last few survivors between like 10 o'clock and 2 were basically in the little crevices they pulled them out one day after, I think, if I remember. But there was so many ambulances on the scene, there was no need for everyone to stick around. But we all were digging, hoping to find our friends.
So you had, no doubt, several personal friends that were also there fighting the flames, fighting the chaos, but you were essentially, I'm assuming, on your own, just going in trying to help people individually. Or was it more organized than that?
It wasn't organized at all. It was just in the initial hours. Nothing was organized. It was a controlled chaos, basically, the way I see it.
Right.
I mean, even the radio, we were on a no-bid radio contract, so we couldn't get through to each other that easily either. The entire EMS and fire system was messed up, basically. Police got the greatest radios. We got garbage.
Right. Then when Building 5, I guess, is the one that's really mysterious.
No, Building 7.
Building 7.
That would be the most controversial.
Yeah, Building 7. So were you there when Building 7 went down?
Yeah, I was just hanging out eating. And we were told to get out of the area because Building 7's coming down.
They told you it was coming down before it did?
Yeah. Yep.
And it fell in the same straight pancaking way that the other two had fallen.
Pancaking and pulverized.
Pancaking and pulverized. Did you hear any explosions before that one went down?
I was a few blocks away, but yes, I did.
Was it the same kind of bam, 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 bam?
Yep.
So you and I talked shortly after we met, and I had asked you what you thought happened, and you were understandably hesitant to give me information. But you've opened up over the years to me in private conversations.
Correct.
So at this point, in your best judgment as a person who was there, what do you think happened? And do you think the government's being forthright?
I think the 9/11 Commission was a whitewash. I think in my opinion, the character Osama bin Laden was an asset for the Central Intelligence Agency in the 80s. Politically, I thought it was a mistake to use people like that from Saudi Arabia to fight the Russian bear in Afghanistan, to create a Vietnam-like situation for them. Ultimately, I think either he turned on us or was a part of a bigger plot to create more mayhem.
Okay, but so you do not believe that the Twin Towers went down from aircraft hitting them?
Scientifically, architects and engineers, Luke Radowski, a bunch of different people said that. Yep.
What do you think about people who condemn, I don't want to get into Alex Jones, but I know that you watch his material. What do you think about people who decry this is just all conspiracy theory, there's no truth, there's no proof for any of this?
Well, I lived it. You could claim it's my PTSD acting up. Go right ahead, label me as you wish. I don't care anymore.
But you know what you experienced.
I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. Nothing is going to change that memory. Nothing. Nothing.
Understand.
It was as a matter of fact, it was a primary day that day for the mayor's race.
We've heard stories about what was in Building 7 and why.
Well, a lot of things were in Building 7. U.S. Secret Service, the Pentagon bean counter, Defense Intelligence Agency, CIA had an office there. U.S. Secret Service kept one of the beasts that would be the limo that the president used to get from point A to point B in New York City. They pre-positioned them, Secret Service, all over the country, actually. Except when they had to travel overseas, then they'd put it on a C-130.
Rudy Giuliani, right after this happened, made what I think was perhaps a blunder, but he said that he was going into Building 7 to contact some of the resources that were there, and that he was told...
That the New York City OEM was evacuated that day.
No, but he was going... He said he was going into the building because he wanted to be able to use the information facilities there, and that he was told at the door to turn and go back because the building was coming down, and that was about a half an hour before it did. That got very little attention, but it was on the news at the time.
The other thing about Building 7, it was New York City OEM, which is the Office of Emergency Management.
Right. I think that's probably what he was trying to get a hold of. So,
which means it was a hardened facility, and it was biologically safe in case of bioterrorism.
Right. So what would be the benefit, do you think, I mean, this is just totally conjecture, but what would be the benefit of taking out that building?
Well, there wouldn't be any benefit because Metrotech became the new OEM that day with its IT facilities.
Okay, but the building was taken out, or the building fell. So presumably they had a reason for doing it.
To do that, we would have to assume it was pre-wired to blow before 9/11.
Do you believe that?
You know, even Larry Silverstein. You know, the biggest picture with 9/11 was Larry Silverstein. He just acquired the property from the Port Authority, and he took 3 or 4 separate policies on it. You know, or one policy is what I remember correctly from the talk.
Right.
And he got paid on 4 separate, 4 separate incidents in the billions each.
And isn't it true that Marvin Bush, I think his name is Marvin, actually became the... Tell me about that.
Marvin Bush had the security contract for the entire site from the entire World Trade Center complex. They were putting in fire alarms, sprinklers, communication systems for the fire wardens on the various floors, the people in charge to help you evacuate, all of that stuff. At the same time, those buildings were sick, and Port Authority didn't know what to do with them because of the asbestos. It would have cost billions to abate it, basically.
Okay. All right, now let's change a little bit out from here. The plane that went down and hit the Pentagon. A few days ago, finally, there was a video released of a security camera in a nearby area that showed the explosion and miraculously, strangely, oddly showed no plane crashing, just simply the explosion. From the angle of that security camera, you should have been able to see the plane hit, but there's no plane that you can see. Tell us about that one.
For a plane to hit where at the World Trade Center or
No, at the Pentagon. At the Pentagon. This footage was placed near the.
If you look at a map of the entire area,
mm-hmm.
The flight dynamics alone, being I took some flying lessons, would not be possible for a plane to fly that low for that amount of time with all the light posts on the highway and everything in the area. And a lot of pilots were saying it's for a jet that size, with the amount of flight training they had, next to impossible.
All righty.
They didn't even learn how to land, let alone precision fly a twin-engine jet. Fully loaded with enough jet fuel to cause the amount of damage it caused when striking the Pentagon. And what I find was even more ironic was it was the actual accounting office of the Pentagon that got hit, the Inspector General.
Mm-hmm. Which is part of why I was thinking a connection for Building 7 because.
And also they were trillions of dollars. What, $1.5 trillion went missing from the Pentagon budget? So the entire day is highly, highly suspicious. I would love to have a new set of congressional hearings in Congress, not in a commission, because that's where facts go to die, but an actual congressional hearing. We get Mueller on record. We get with the stuff he pulled and how we were stopped from suing Saudi Arabia initially.
Okay, so
let's look at the facts. Prince Bandar, a week before, comes to the U.S. He's a U.S. ambassador, the Saudi ambassador to the United States, a close confidant of the Bush family.
Mm-hmm.
I call him Bandar Bush, actually. There's a photo of the two of them actually lip kissing, and I couldn't believe what I saw. And it's like, was it that close? I thought that kind of behavior is frowned upon, in Saudi Arabia. But evidently the royals did it. The royal kissed Bush on the lip. You go figure.
Okay, speak a little bit about Mueller in relation to 9/11.
Well, Mueller helped evacuate the Saudi royal family and the diplomatic staff at the Saudi embassy. In particular, the bin Laden family was evacuated.
So at a time when it was illegal for Americans to fly anywhere in the United States, the bin Laden family took to the skies and flew out.
Correct. I mean, we had Air Force jets overflying the city, NYPD helicopters with snipers on them. We had the Air Force everywhere. I mean, but the one phone call I got into on my cell to my home to my mom, she said you should come home, and I said I can't. We're in a rescue operation right now. And she can hear the jets flying over the house. They put a U.S. aircraft carrier off the coast that day.
Yeah, we actually closed all airspace was closed, and planes coming in, our domestic flights, etc., were all canceled, and planes were directed to Canada, to Mexico, which nobody even told in the news that they had gone to Mexico, and the Mexicans treated the families as their own, as did Canada, yet we said thank you to Canada and not to Mexico. Couldn't believe it.
I was shocked when I heard that myself, actually. You know, I mean, if you were flying over the continental United States, CONUS, the closest commercial airport is where you would land. You know, I mean, if you were lined up to fly from New York to Los Angeles, chances are you're gonna somewhere in between O'Hare, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Denver. You're gonna land there, obviously. You know, because they weren't letting flights complete their flight. Basically, they were bringing everybody in. But I didn't learn about that until I got home and after I passed out on the 8th day. And I just slept for a day.
Right. On this camera, I'm going to share one of the videos of that was released of the plane crashing the Pentagon. Let me get it balanced here so you can see it nicely. I'm sure you've probably all seen this before.
I saw it live because when the first tower went down, my brother had missed getting there on time because he would have been in that first tower. And that's when I was still with Sears, and they called me into the office and said, you need to see this. And oh my God, he was bragging how going there.
If I was RDO, that means that delay for me getting there actually saved my life, because chances are I would have went closer to the towers and I would have went in to help.
Right. So as you see on the video that I'm showing right now, you see the explosion happening. But I'm going to play it again. If you look closely, you will see the explosion, but you will see nothing causing the explosion. Here's a peaceful day, security camera, and then all of a sudden, bam. There is no plane that you can see. There's no missile that you can see. They said it's a plane. So there's a lot of this kind of footage that was held privately that they would not allow people to see, and that the government was very intentionally blocking. And you sort of have to wonder, if what we're being told is true, why would they have gone to the trouble of blocking it? It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. You guys still there?
God.
There we go. I think I lost you for just a second. It doesn't make the story that we got just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, I'm not sure about the Pentagon, but I know what I saw at Ground Zero.
Is there a reason for the light to be on like that, Rabbi?
Say again?
When I look into the screen, there is an audio sign that appears.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Pesach, what we're seeing is a blue sign that says audio instead of your camera.
There we go. Now we have it.
Okay. There you go, yeah.
Thank you.
I went to clean my nose a little. That's why I didn't want to.
Yeah, no,
I didn't want to be on camera.
Right, no worries at all. So then, if we are going to assume that something happened, which I think clearly something happened, you were present at Ground Zero, you were pulling the survivors out. Mm-hmm. You are saying that you don't think it is feasible that the plane hit the Pentagon. You're saying that you heard the popping sounds
as a former when I took flying lessons.
Right.
That type of flight was just next to impossible for a seasoned aviator.
Right. And so you also don't believe that or you heard the popping of the buildings, and you're not convinced that the plane hitting the building is what did it in either case. So, in your best judgment,
My suggestion.
what happened?
My suggestion is you follow the architecture. You follow the people who actually know how to design buildings, like A&E, architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. They got it on target. Their biggest goal is, to convene the grand jury. Well, that grand jury has been ongoing now for several months in Manhattan.
All right.
Curious, is it possible in your place in playing that video for you to put it on very slow motion so we can watch frame by frame just to see if we missed the airplane, because I didn't see any evidence of a plane.
Can try that. Tell you what, let's do. Let's go ahead and take our break now, and then we will come back with Pesach Kirschner. Everybody take a breath, and we will be...
Do I have time to go to the bathroom?
You've got about 5 minutes, and if you're late, don't worry about it. Here comes.
I have to go into the store.
But please don't take the cam with you.
Here comes the intermission.
It's going to stay in the car.
We're on the intermission now. No talking. Two minutes. Be quiet, please. And thank you, everybody. We will now return to our regular broadcast. We are joined today by Pesach Kirschner, who is a 9/11 responder and a dear personal friend of myself and of what we do here at learnamuna.com. Pesach has been sharing some fascinating stories and experiences that he had on 9/11, as well as his personal views about what likely happened and perhaps did not happen in relation to 9/11. So we are back. So Donald had asked if I could play that video I showed a little bit slower. I'm going to let people do their own experimenting or their own investigations concerning the various attack scenarios and that sort of thing. I'd like to now turn a little bit more personal. So, Pesach, you've shared your objective, I guess you'd say, experience. I know that you are currently and have been since 9/11 suffering various types of physical disabilities because of the attack. I'd like to know now how the attacks of 9/11 impacted your personal health, your personal life, and in that we can now go forward a little bit more in what you're trying to do to let people know what actually happened and also to get justice for your own health problems. So what happened to you as a result of 9/11 physically?
Physically, I developed sleep apnea within a year. I had the chronic World Trade Center cough for about a month afterwards. That lasted for a couple of months. And then the sleep apnea kicked in. Then I started getting chest pain, from my cardiomyopathy, which was genetic. And I learned about it in 2011 at NYU after a couple of cardiac admissions where I was blowing STEMIs and they did repeated angiography. And nobody came up with a diagnosis of hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. So what happened after that is I had to go to Cleveland with a sharp cardiologist at NYU, associate professor, that actually picked it up. They were able to determine that the sleep apnea did make it worse. They put me on 2 beta blockers. One was, and cardizem to lower my blood pressure and my heart rate, so I wouldn't have a huge outflow tract obstruction going into the pulmonary artery or vein or any of the areas that are necessary to Sorry, my phone fell.
Right. For clarification before you go on, you said that disability was genetic.
Right. It was always a pre-existing because my father died at a very young age from cardiomyopathy.
Okay. Did 9/11 directly impact that?
Yes. The sleep apnea exacerbated it, absolutely.
So you don't think you would have? Do you think you would have had the issues that you're having with with that had it not been for 9/11?
I wasn't even on cardiac medications before 9/11. Let's just hear that one.
Okay.
It was basically you could hear it as a heart murmur, or you could measure it in what's called an echocardiogram.
Uh-huh.
Which is a Doppler device, like a sonogram, where they actually could see measure the thickness of the septal wall.
Right.
So it exacerbated a pre-existing. Asthma was never a problem with me.
Okay.
When I was that young. Never had an asthma attack until after 9/11.
How long after?
About a year.
Okay. Is there any research that all the toxic stuff that you no doubt experienced on 9/11, is there
Yep.
any kind of evidence that that is what caused the asthma and that it maybe sat dormant for a year and then your
Well,
asthma kicked in?
well, no, the asthma was never pre-existing. It was the hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
So the asthma just
You
came
know,
out of the blue.
the asthma was, environmentally is linked to September 11th building syndrome.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, you got to realize the World Trade Center site, the buildings had mold. They had a lot of problems. They had asbestos in them. You know, they had radioactive smoke detectors by the thousands. You know, most people don't realize what's inside their smoke detector even.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you not to get a smoke detector. You need it. But there's radon inside of them, a radioactive isotope to help detect carbon atoms from fire.
So when all those devices started melting, it released stuff into the atmosphere.
Or, well, no, they would have had it been pulverized. The material inside of it, you know, so the collapse of the buildings would basically pulverize the smoke detectors, and we would have been inhaling the radon dust.
Okay.
If that's the right isotope, I think it's radon.
Okay.
But if you look at the smoke detectors, you'll see a radioactive symbol on them.
Right. So what? So tell me what is? I think you used the term 9/11 syndrome or something like that. 9/11.
9/11 related health syndromes.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Okay. And so you are experiencing what from 9/11? I mean, I'm sorry, anything genetic, but
Accelerated hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, requiring open heart surgery and the placement of a defibrillator. I take 4 different respiratory medications now. I take nasal sprays because of the chronic nasal drip and allergies. I also have sleep apnea, which is a direct result of 9/11.
mm-hmm. I know you had you either had or have a GoFundMe site where you're asking people to contribute to you as a 9/11 responder.
Yeah, I have actually. I'm using more PayPal for that now because it's easier to push payments. I was in the Marine Corps. Code of Veterans is backing me up. It's a nonprofit organization run by Gretchen Smith and a whole bunch of volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
They're right now helping me with my car payments and my rent because Social Security is now saying your chronic pain has improved significantly enough that you can work at a light job, giving your education and training. And I'm saying that's insane. You know, I'm in and out of hospitals. I catch a cold, I'm in a hospital.
Right.
You know, it triggers my asthma. So in reality, I'm fighting it, of course, and I'm going to have an advocate with me. You know, when I have my hearing. You know,
Okay.
and I'm my best advocate medically and have been for years.
Okay, so why don't tell us about Droga?
The James and Droga Act was a response to the first 2 settlements that they made with the World Trade Commission and 9/11 responders. A lot of them didn't file initially because they didn't have anything wrong with them and they didn't want to take part in it.
So it's sort of like you had like a pretty good year. It's like that, and then it kicks in.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You know, for some people it takes several years. The cancers are only people already had. Well, I had kidney cancer. I've got to add that. You know, for that I got $300K. I opened a business. I fell on my face after getting sick. You know, I mismanaged it partially. The other part was I was too sick to own a business. You know, so now I'm basically, you know, I have an ex that I live with. She really don't want me there, but she's taking money from Code of Vets to help keep me there, and she doesn't want to throw me out. You know, and I could go back to Brooklyn. I have friends there. They would take me in. You know, but after all these years of being outside of New York City and living in Naperville, I don't want to go back. I'm safe where I am. Crime is very low here.
This does not, Rabbi. This, this stuff coming on a year later and that kind of thing. Most people do not realize that the exposures, light exposure to radiation, doesn't affect people for usually 6 months, a year, 2 years, and then it
sometimes even longer, depending upon the type of radiation.
That's right. But major exposure, like when you're present and a generator blows up or something like that, that's a different story. That's an instant kill. But when it's low, this is the reason that people with cell phones are told to keep them, 6 inches away from their head. This is slow. It's not it's not something that is detected immediately unless you are in very close proximity to the radiation.
Detonation. Yeah, right. The whole point is the radiation exposure was more from the smoke detectors being pulverized, or the CRTs, which were cathode ray tubes for computers in the offices.
Yeah, and the other problem that he's suffering with the sinus drip, if you go to a eye, ear, nose specialist, you may find that you have is polyps growing in there.
I've had a few taken out. I've had a few of them taken out.
This is all indicative of the exposure. This is not something that you commonly would even at any age develop in your sinuses. Development in your rectal area, that's quite common, and that's caused not so much by radiation as it is irritation. But here we have this chemical dust, and that's what's causing polyps, and that causes his nose to constantly.
Yeah. And the World Trade Center Health Program has died. You got to realize, Shlomo, the World Trade Center Health Program is the largest epidemiology study in mass casualty ever done. So the 16,000 of us that are left are being watched, and weekly we're seeing new cancers, and people, and these are not only secondary but third cancers coming up. The amount of will to live, to fight in the 9/11 community, you could see it. I think in part it's driven because of a drive to see justice, and people go to prison and get executed for war crimes against the American people.
Okay.
And ultimately, I think a lot of us are just trying to stay alive to get to that day.
All right.
We have the dust that's caused by asbestos. People, these children who've died from, I shouldn't say children, these adults who died from exposure to asbestos 20 years before, and it just takes that long. So what he has experienced is relatively quick in terms of what he breathed in, because these are so fine that even some of the respirators can't even filter that kind of dust out. Right. That's how minute. Correct.
On the chat screen, we've had some really interesting conversations going on. Thank you, all of you who have been commenting. Guy is here, Veronica, Kelsey, Lynn. So many of our regulars are here, as well as a couple of folks who I haven't seen before. Guy brings up an important point here that I'd be interested in your thoughts on, Pesach. Guy says, because I remember this story too, forgot how much gold was removed from the tower in the weeks before it happened. Do you know about that?
It was good. Actually, the gold was not removed. It was the night of the eve after it happened. We had a bunch of National Guard with armored cars go to the Federal Reserve Bank and Chase and empty it out.
Oh, well, that would make total sense after the attack. Okay.
They didn't want the firefighters, to get into these vaults, obviously, looking for people, which we were.
Guy says he sent me a video. Guy, where did you send that to me? Did you send that on Facebook or... Because I'm not seeing it. Unless you're talking about the one the other day. I think that what my position the whole time has been concerning this is I don't know what happened, but I think there are far too many there's far too many questions to accept the official account. That's my take on it. Kelsey Lynn says phase one of... Oh, okay. She's getting ready for Pesach. The music break is being sung by Messianic. You know, I had actually thought that because the very end of it, I clipped off the end of it, but I love that song. Thank you, though, for telling me that, Kelsey, and I'll have to change that music.
Yeah, we'll have to change it. Yeah.
Beautiful song. I was wondering about that myself, but I just love it's just a pretty song, the way they do it.
So I didn't hear it. So,
yeah. But if it's just a nice song, but if the Shalom, but if it was, then I certainly should change that. Thank you for that, Kelsey. I appreciate it. Guy says, I heard mesothelioma, I can't spell it, being reported at one point. That would be the lung cancer and all the other cancers there from asbestos.
It's not only cancers, it's lung nodules, which I have on my CAT scans. I've showed you the reports a couple of years ago. You know, the real miracle is they went down in size. They've been watching them very closely. They didn't even tell me about them.
Huh.
Yeah, until I saw the radiology reports. And then I challenged them on it, and I said, you didn't tell me? They said, you have enough to worry about with your heart. We didn't want to scare you. We didn't know what it was, and we didn't want to put you through a biopsy. But They got smaller.
I'm going to leave this to your discretion, but are you interested in discussing the lawsuit with the Saud royal family?
You bet your butt.
Okay.
I was not told that I can't not talk about it. So I'm going to assume I have no gag order in place, so I will.
Okay.
Before you do, I would. Are you in communication with the attorney handling the case? Because there could be a gag order that he knows.
No, I asked the attorney months ago if I could talk about the Saudi lawsuit if I do any media. They said yes, you can.
Oh, okay, then you're fine. As long as he told you.
We're not. I don't think we're at the discovery stage yet. I think that will happen closer to the discovery stage. There's another thing going. We have a grand jury in Manhattan meeting on it, and it's been going on for like 9 months now.
Okay, so remember that most of us don't know what's going on. So tell us in clear words about that lawsuit and the opposition to it.
Start with the two issues that the 9/11 community is facing right now. Not one, two. The health care is covered for the next 75 years of for our lives basically, and our first generation of descendants basically for genetic disorders. So basically, that's funded to the tune of $30 billion. Barring the rest of us, all 16,000 of us coming down with a cancer or two, will depend on the status of the healthcare part of the fund. We think it's enough currently to cover everybody for 75 years. The other problem is the 9/11, the compensation program is running out of funds, which means they're cutting people's payments down by 70%.
Okay, what kind of payments? What kind of payment? Most people don't know that people are getting any payments. Tell us about those payments.
The Droga Act was created and named after Detective James Droga, who died of cancer. I believe he had pancreatic. He didn't have a snowball's chance to get through it.
This is just a parenthesis here. This is the one that you were worried about was not going to be refunded, and Ted Cruz stepped up, right? And you met Ted Cruz.
No, Ted Cruz actually. I met Ted Cruz, and he stepped back from it. Then I launched the firefighters campaign against him.
Mm-hmm.
A guy like that does not deserve to be in the White House.
Okay, that's the point I want to let you make. So Ted Cruz, who claims to be such a great patriot, was actually fighting the 9/11 responders and almost kept Droga from happening.
And not only that, he was very disingenuous. He said, "You're Jewish. You go to live in Israel." I said, "Yeah. How much is it going to cost my health care there, and how am I going to live?"
Yeah, he's a member of his Christian sect is very not pro-Jewish. Let's just leave it there. So, all right. So then you got all this money that's guaranteed now for you guys health care for the next 75 years. That's wonderful. Yasser Koach, Mazel Tov, and all that kind of good stuff. Now, tell me what's happening with Saudi Arabia with that lawsuit. Who is suing? Why are they suing? And the road to get where you could sue, because I know that was not easy.
No, they tried to block it every step of the way, despite FBI agents coming forward and saying the Saudis were involved. Despite all that fact, Mueller blocked any efforts in the federal courts for us.
This is the same Mueller who's currently doing the witch hunt against the president, right?
Yeah, Robert Mueller. Correct.
That Mueller. Okay, go ahead.
He's the one who actually helped facilitate the evacuation of all these criminals out of the country, basically.
Right.
Terrorists. And in my mind, he ran interference with the 9/11 Commission. He had a lot of testimony scrubbed from it.
Right.
Redacted. The 28 redacted pages, well, they're released, but they're still redacted. So the key points are not coming out.
Right.
That's my point. So the same guy that's in charge of prosecuting and going after Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, he's the same guy that helped block the 9/11 lawsuits.
Okay, so then, all right, so the Saudi connection.
Well, the Saudi connection is 15 of them were Saudi, of the 19. They were all Wahhabist. Prince Bandar met with them.
Explain what a Wahhabi is.
Well, Wahhabi is the most extremist form of Islam coming out of Saudi. Yeah, they're the primary sponsor of terror.
Right. They're also the ones who established Al-Ikhwan, the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Ikhwan, is the one that directs Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, all of them. Okay, go ahead, please.
Bear in mind, the entire system of these Arab terrorists were assets of the Central Intelligence Agency for years.
Okay, so tell me now about, all right, so Mueller was opposed to it, but a group of 9/11 responders are suing Saudi Arabia. Tell me about that.
Not only the responders, but the survivors of family members who have died.
Good correction. Thank you. All right, so tell me about that. Why are they suing Saudi Arabia, and how's that going? And what are they claiming?
All right. Well, Prince Bandar met with the hijackers a week before. We know about the cash deliveries. We know that the hijackers went on an alcohol and drug-filled binge with hookers a week before and lived it up in Vegas. We know about that. And that was Prince Bandar Bush. We know about...
Prince Bandar Bush? You said Prince Bandar.
Bush.
His name is Bandar Bush?
No, that's my nickname for him.
Okay, all right. I just want to be real clear because I don't want people to misunderstand you.
Prince Bandar bin Solomon.
Right.
That's his real name.
Right. I didn't want people to be confused by that. Like there's a blood connection between them and the Bushes.
Who will not be but the current king is still the king, but he's not king. Really the son, another bin Solomon is running.
Yeah. No, I got you. Okay, so go ahead. Yeah, so go ahead with the law. Go ahead.
So he's liberalizing things there now because of President Trump's pressure. It's obvious.
Right, but back to the lawsuit, though. What are you claiming against Saudi Arabia? So you're saying that the Saud family government did what?
Supplied funding.
Supplied funding for the attack. Attacks. Okay.
Flight training.
All right. Now let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. You said earlier that you don't believe that the buildings were brought down by planes, and you don't believe that a plane hit the Pentagon, implying for lack of a better word, an inside job. If you're also saying, hang a second. Let me. All right, go ahead.
From an intelligence perspective, you need plausible deniability. You're not letting me get to the point. You're trying to deflect from one idea, saying what I'm trying to say.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to connect the two for clarity.
Right.
Well, my question. Okay, Pesach, let me ask you my question. Then go ahead. My question is, if you're saying that you're seeing something that happened here and you're seeing that the Sauds are paying for things. I'm interested in the connection that you're seeing. I'm not challenging anything you're saying. I believe
the
you.
connection is the flight training the money had to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Prince Bandar would be one of the primaries. The flight training had to be paid for. Their party the week before they died, partying up and having a good time in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
that had to be paid for. I mean, the amount of alcohol, booze, and hookers they went through, it was amazing, is what, according to the FBI reports.
Right.
And those are the impression forms that were left, and as well. So that's part of the evidence. The other part is there were key indicators that through the Israeli connections I have that Bandar was involved in funding this operation. That's all as far I could go. I don't know anything else on that. And that's why the grand jury in Manhattan is meeting on it. The fact that 3 planes, I know for a fact, 3 airplanes did disappear with all those passengers. We know that for a fact.
How come nobody sued Mueller, who was involved in all of this cover-up stuff? Why didn't anybody sue him?
Because the evidence wasn't completely there until recently. It took a lot of work to get to it, and the president had only a year ago declassified the 28 redacteds, but over the objections of the CIA, they want to still redact the 28 pages.
Well, that's why I question how come nobody personally sued for his interference, Mueller. He said that he prevented lawsuits and everything. Why didn't anybody sue him?
He can't sue. It was a government action to block the lawsuits out of fear that foreigners could sue our military engaged in war operations.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure that got clarified.
They wanted to make sure our soldiers are immune from prosecution if we tell them, go fight Jordan, go fight wherever. We want to make sure that our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines are isolated from it because they are only carrying out orders.
Right, but you have gone against the culprit who is blocking all of these orders under the, did he in any way receive compensation for what he was doing that was above and beyond what the government was paying him?
That's correct. And that's my point. It could be a legal theory, but at the time he was the FBI director, if I remember correctly.
Again,
yeah, I think so.
Terry. And
if
so
that was the case, he's immune from prosecution, basically. But there may be some criminal charges that the administration will file against him.
That was the key reason for asking about how come you guys didn't sue him personally. If you could prove that he personally, and I believe he did, interfere in all of this.
Yeah, his denial, though, is he ran interference. He wouldn't allow questioning of the Bin Laden family,
right.
Or anybody, or the Saudis.
I know. This is why I asked that particular question.
I mean, if 9/11 happened again today and struck the Sears Tower or the Willis Tower now, what would happen? Trump would order each and every last Saudi detained.
For sure.
And interrogated before being released.
For sure.
There would be no game. The jails would be filled up.
Right.
With them waiting interrogation. If they have any close ties.
That problem, yeah.
Okay, so now let's back up just a little bit. You made 2 statements. One, we still haven't quite got to the Saudi lawsuit, which I want to get more into. But you also made a really interesting statement. You said that 3 planes that we know of had disappeared. I'd like for you to speak more about that, and then I want to go ahead and go back to the Saudi lawsuit. But tell me about those 3 planes.
Well, we know passengers are dead. We know there's a manifest of passengers. The people, their bodies were never recovered.
Right.
We know there were many at the World Trade Center. So we were picking up little parts of fingers. Actually, let's be real. So did not. So if these planes went into the building's pulverized. Basically that's part of the picture.
Okay, but you said specifically 3 planes have disappeared.
That I know of. Shanksville, Pennsylvania is one of them.
Okay, so these 3 planes are not the 2 that hit the tower and the one that hit the Pentagon, supposedly. These are 3 other planes.
Well, you had 3. Wait. World Trade Center, North Tower, South Tower, Shanksville, and the one bound for which was the one bound for Washington.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
So 4 planes. So 4 planes disappear. Where are all the bodies? You know, they didn't find any.
Okay, one of the
no, these people are all gone.
Right, one of the accounts, and this is where I thought you were going. One of the accounts say that 4 planes were seen at a U.S. military base with the same numbers of the planes that supposedly hit the towers and crashed and stuff. Thereby, they're saying they don't think those planes physically were the same planes that actually were used in the attack, which would imply somebody had the ability to do a cover-up. Right, is that where you were going?
I'm going is all these passengers are gone.
Okay, all right.
So I have to assume the fact that they're gone, and if the tail sections didn't match the missing aircraft, then I have to question, did they shoot those people down in cold blood? But in reality, those passengers were on the flight. We know for a fact the Shanksville passengers were recorded, through cell phone calls when they were flying lower. And we know for a fact they're saying goodbye to people.
Okay.
They had to move. And they took that plane down. The passengers themselves took it down. With my flight training, I could have possibly landed it.
Right.
But I doubt it because it's all fly-by-wire.
Guy says, don't forget about the passport of one of those that crashed one of the planes into the towers. Was found on the ground. How convenient.
Yeah, that and where the hell are the flight data recorders? They decide to survive a fall from 50,000 feet.
Okay, all right. So let's go back now to Saudi Arabia. Okay, so there is a group of responders and survivors who are suing Saudi Arabia. The government, including Mueller, at every step is trying to stop you. Where's that lawsuit at today?
Well,
and also, what are you actually accusing the Saudis of doing?
Taking part in, basically participating in the act by funding the terrorists who actually did fly those planes.
Okay, so where is the lawsuit today?
It's going to discovery in a couple of months. From what I understand, there is a separate case, a criminal probe by a Manhattan grand jury right now, a federal one. They've been convening in secret for months. Mm-hmm. They are getting paid as grand jurors. I'm hoping that the evidence that's being presented is open, it's honest, that they gave these grand jurors security clearance for it, so they can hear all the facts, including sources and methods.
So if this lawsuit and the discovery proves that the Saudi royal family was personally involved, what will that mean for Bush and Cheney and all the American politicians who, this is what I was going towards a minute ago, who you believe, as I understand it, actually had foreknowledge to some degree about what happened. What do you think the repercussions will be to America?
It could lead to grand jury indictments under treason.
Against Bush, Cheney, associates?
Treason. Yep.
Treason. And that would be a reason why the courts and Mueller have been trying so hard to block you guys from being able to sue the Saudi government for their participation.
But we have a bunch of money-grubbing lawyers who want to make money on it, so they're going to sue for us and fight for us. Let God bless them. My life is almost at an end. I don't know how much longer I got. I don't know how much more fight I got left in me, but I'm going to fight till I see justice. I was talking to one of the, last year, one of the psychologists at the World Trade Center Health Program, and I said, what if they indict all these people?
Mm-hmm.
What fight do I have left? I asked her, and she said that you'll have to find something that really interests you. Otherwise, you will probably give up treatment and stop taking your meds. And she's right. So I have to figure out, if I get this justice, what's next?
That's what I'm wondering, too. And would the United States government?
If I see them in a perp walk, in chains, being led to Supermax prison at the ADX in Colorado, that would be the happiest day of my life. If the Saudis paid their share, I'll be able to live comfortably for what's left of it. Right now, I'm facing homelessness right now, and if it wasn't for the Code of Vets, Jen would certainly move against me. It's already springtime, and I'd have to drive all the way to New York.
Okay.
It's just I have to get from point A to point B right now to see justice, and that's what.
And you're not walking. There's others who are walking with you.
Many people are walking with me right now. Many people.
Right, which is very important.
Including Code of Veterans, who has kept me in my car for the last 6 months. I made a very hefty down payment. I don't want to lose that.
Sure.
Once I pay this car off, who knows what I'm going to do? I'm probably going to keep it. And if Saudi Arabia settles, I'll probably just pay off the car note, sell it. And just put that money back in the bank and just leave for Israel. And hire someone, a caretaker, to come a few days a week, clean the house, check my medications, and go to, and stuff like that. But for the most part, I have to fight Social Security disability down to stay on it. They're claiming I can work 6 to 8 hours a day when I can only stand for less than an hour.
Right.
They think I can lift 20 pounds. Well, no. I have spondylosis of the spine. I'm back in treatment. I go to a chiropractor daily. I get spinal trigger point injections 3 days a week of lidocaine and saline, which do help with the pain. I'm on medical cannabis. I sleep with oxygen and a CPAP. And when I fly, I use an oxygen machine. Or if I'm driving, at a higher altitude, I have to use my oxygen concentrator.
Right. Susan says
sometimes when my asthma, sometimes when my asthma, I get really coughy.
Right.
And I start losing. I go on oxygen because my pulse ox goes to 89.
Sure. Susan says in the chat room, she's agreeing with you. A grand jury would only hear what the prosecutors, i.e. the government, wants them to hear. Guy says you hit the nail on the head. It's treasonable. Kelsey Lynn asked a very good question, which I hope the answer is yes. Would Clinton, referring to Bill, would Clinton be indicted too? He supposedly had foreknowledge about bin Laden. And I would add...
I would have to say yes.
And I would...
under negligence.
And I would add that if Bill knew, Hillary for sure knew as well. Yes. Guy says it was high crimes against the nation. In his opinion, Kelsey says perverted justice sucks. Guy agrees that they were all involved.
I mean, what other way can you start all these damn wars after the fact and get away with it?
Right. W. Bush's statement when he first got elected was that he wouldn't be being so attacked if he was a wartime president, and all of a sudden 9/11 happens, and he's a wartime president.
Mm-hmm. There's more to it than that, but obviously it's a never-ending war on terrorism. We're giving up our rights day after day. Social media was essentially created as a control tool. Let's be real. It was DARPA funded.
But they don't have to hire private investigators anymore. We out ourselves about everything now.
Yeah, we tell everybody about ourselves.
Yeah.
Through all of the social media.
See what you think about. See what you think about this comment by Guy. Guy says that's why the swamp, the government, all these people. This is why they are so against President Trump. He's doing what he can in this mess, but so many are fighting against him. What are your thoughts about what does President Trump know that he's not revealing, and why isn't he revealing it? Because I would think he would have been taught.
It might be a matter of time. It might be timing. For instance, Michael Bolton is a war hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Deep dives to Bush, and sometimes it's very Machiavellian to keep your enemies closer than your friends.
Mm-hmm.
who are your actual friends, so that you bring them on board, so you know what they're up to and what they're doing rather than go behind the scenes, and have to spy on them. That's a possibility. Trump, I think, knows a lot more than all of us put together.
No doubt.
If there's any
No doubt.
truth to the Q movement, and I wish it was true, I just think it's a bunch of poppycock, because I spoke with guys like Judge Gorka, who I know, and a few others. It's quite probable the U.S. military begged him to run. The tools used against us as citizens are now being turned. It's a possibility. I'll believe it when I see it.
That's the problem. Is there's so much that we just don't know.
Exactly. What I know is what I heard, what I saw. Whatever friends and connections I have, and they're not willing to share. And they share as little as they can, and that's to protect us, more or less. If I had a really close relationship with the Trump family, chances are Mueller would be knocking on my door to ask for me to give him any dirt.
Okay, tell us about Q. Guy said, "Did you Q us just now?"
Well, Q movement is a supposed movement of that justice is going to be served for everybody, based on the fact that the military, they asked Trump to run in '96. He was being prepped by Roger Stone to run because of the plan of the globalists to destroy America. That's the presumption. I don't believe it, because I don't think patriots hide behind anonymous handles. The fact that I'm a patriot, I'm proud to say I'm a patriot. The fact that I know what I know about 9/11, the fact that I'm willing to discuss it openly, makes me a direct target.
Mm-hmm.
So if the SHTF actually occurs, I would be the first day roundup.
Okay, but if you consider that the swamp has done absolutely horrid things to people who have stood up, I think it might make sense for people to do what they feel they can do without putting themselves and their families in the jeopardy of being picked up, like you just said.
I will tell you, the New York City building commissioner died of very mysterious causes after 9/11, because he made statements he shouldn't have.
Right. So considering that, it makes sense to me that a patriot might do what he could, but not put himself quite out there.
Well, the fact is, if these generals and military leaders are doing it, they're not using any electronic means, and they're using Pony Express like privates or corporals or sergeants to carry messages amongst each other. That would be the given.
Right. Kelsey Lynn said, "I thought Q was a character from Star Trek Next Generation."
Yes, he is, but there's movement.
Yeah, right.
To YouTube it.
Yeah.
Because I thought there might be some truth to it, but George Gorka said no. A couple of Trump's confidants said no, it's not real.
This is part of the problem. There are so many possibilities that we can't prove, that it gets really hard to even talk publicly, because if you say something that sounds crazy, you're judged, and if you say something that is too close to the truth, they may come after you. They've done it in the past. So how do you choose when to speak out and when not to? That's
the fact that I'm in and out of hospitals. I have to be very, very careful, because if I'm asleep with my CPAP on and I'm deep sleeping, he just gave me a shot of morphine or Dilaudid and a sleeping medication. I'm resting from my asthma attack and recovering. They'll throw pain meds to calm my intercostal pain down from the asthma. So they could always slip a Mickey in the IV, and I wouldn't even know it.
Right. That's true. Guy says, just a hint, Q plus is President Trump, he thinks.
No, President Trump does not have Q. I know that to be a fact. The President of the United States does not have the top security clearance. Never will.
He doesn't have Q clearance. That's the highest level. That would be for guys like the NSA head, which was
Correct.
General Flynn initially, which is General Flynn. He's still out of jail.
Why wouldn't the president have the highest clearing? Trump aside, who everybody hates, but
no.
Q is a very limited designation. It's reserved for the Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NSA. The highest levels of intelligence have that. Because every phone call, even the president's calls, go through that system. Unless they put it on a scramble. And it can still be decrypted. You got to realize that.
I agree. I'm just relaying what he said. I think he's raising an important question.
It's also highly compartmentalized.
All right, so you're saying your sources tell you it's not Q, but we know that Q exists as the highest level of clearance. So what are you saying that you're sure it's not Q? You don't think it's people on the very top leading this? Is that your point?
I think it's individuals in the military that maybe, if it's true, if the Q movement is real, if it is, it's the highest levels of patriots in the NSA, the CIA, people like that who are career people who aren't won by money but see a far greater risk.
So this would be people who are above the swamp, looking downward and seeing the swamp and thinking we're going to use our position to destroy the swamp.
Right. In other words, to go after the money interests, the traders, the people who want to sell out the American people.
Right.
You know, I'm hoping it's real. I'm hoping the Q movement's real, but I doubt it.
We just saw it took place yesterday when 40 people were arrested for the deal with college. And if you listened real carefully to the accusation of $1.something million, and what was the next thing said? We're not talking about the guy who builds a wing onto a college.
I heard that.
All right. So what they're really saying is the truly, really, really, really wealthy top 5% don't have to worry. Just build a wing and we'll let your kid go for free.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the people, you see, the biggest problem we're facing is we have an unconstitutional money system called fractional reserve banking. The last guy that went after it took a couple of executive orders, in particular 11110, targeting the Federal Reserve. Look what became of that. You know?
Yeah,
we're JFK.
Right. We're getting into a topic now that we're not going to have time for in this broadcast because we only have just a very few minutes left. I would like to have you back sometime, Pesach, and we can go on other topics. I know that you're also a border guard in Israel and that you have all kinds of experience under your belt.
I mean, if you think about it, Druze Arabs are the best friends of Israel, always have been, always will be.
Yeah.
And they're Muslim. They're moderates. They're not extreme people.
Right.
I actually love them and respect them. I was offered many a times go back to Haifa, take Shabbat off. I'll take you post for the weekend, and it would be like, hey, great, thanks.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, so those are the guys that I've learned to respect over the years. You know, and when I was an EMT, it's like they would always come to me for something. And then I became a paramedic, and it was like everybody came to me because I became the unit medic for the border guards. So all the little boils I would take care of, and skin infections and stuff like that.
Do you know, Pesach, if you're going to be available next Wednesday at the same time for another broadcast?
Yeah, I should be.
Okay, then let's pencil you in for next Wednesday for part 2 of this discussion. How does that sound?
Yeah, I can also. You're gonna need my. I have a PayPal.
Okay. Oh yeah. Share your PayPal with us.
If you want to send any money to help out with my living expenses to help pay off my car, or to help me find another place, you can send it to Philip K02.
Wait, hang on. Spell that for me. I'm putting it in the chat screen as you speak. So it's PHILIP K.
Letter K.
Yeah.
02
at
iCloud.com.
iCloud.com. PHILIPK02 at iCloud.com.
Right.
Okay, I'm putting this in the chat screen. if you would like to donate to Guy, Guy posted something right when I said that. If you'd like to make a donation to help Pesach out, you can do that there on that link, or contact him directly by PM. He's all over Facebook when he's not in Facebook jail.
Yeah, Pesach Kirschner. Yep.
All right, Pesach, thank you so much. I do appreciate it, and we'll look forward to hopefully being able to spend another 90 minutes with you next Wednesday at the same time, 12 noon. We appreciate it. We're going to have a very special broadcast next Monday at 8 p.m. Next Monday at 8 p.m., which is the time we never broadcast. We're going to be broadcasting. This, unfortunately, is going to cut in across the same time period as Rabbi A, but I was really limited in the time frames that I was able to get. So if you want to see Rabbi A and you want to hear Zeta's Story Corner, totally support you doing that. You can watch this on the video afterwards. Or you could do the opposite, because we're going to be interviewing Rabbi Bernard Rosenberg, Rabbi Dr. Bernard Rosenberg.
Amen. Amen. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you know? And maybe he wants to postpone his and also join. I don't know.
Maybe I haven't talked to him yet, but Rabbi Bernard Rosenberg has been a friend of mine for many years. He's a man that I have been supporting to the hilt since I first met him. He was born in a displaced persons camp in Nazi after the close of the war in Germany. Most of his family were killed. The group that I offer, called Echoes of the Holocaust, I created for Dr. Rosenberg. The title banner on that Echoes of the Holocaust is a book that he wrote explaining his losses of his family in the Shoah. He is one of the most active proponents of Judaism that there is today, one of the most active people after Elie Wiesel, perhaps, in telling people the truth about what happened in the Holocaust. As a result, he is an incredibly controversial character, not unlike, I would say, Meir Kahane. Though he has not had quite the impact of Meir Kahane, Rabbi Bernard Rosenberg is one of my current heroes. I think the man is absolutely amazing. And we're going to have a discussion with him next Monday night at 8 p.m. It'll be on my YouTube channel, the channel that you're currently watching this broadcast. My dear...
I would point out, because of the controversy going on right now, that everyone needs to understand that he is so tightly censored by the folks at Facebook, it's not funny.
If he breathes, they block it.
Yeah, they just block him. Oh, yeah. He's blocked.
Even if you say radical Islamists, they block you.
Yeah. I don't like that term, by the way, because there's nothing radical about them. They're observant Islamists. They're doing what Muslims are supposed to do, which is why they.
Yeah, but I have a lot of Druze friends who are Muslim, and they prayed away.
The Druze are a totally different category, like the Sufis. They're a totally different categories than Muslim. But let's talk about that another time, because we are now at the end of our broadcast.
I felt like the people should be aware that what he's going to be able to say here would be censored on Facebook. And
yeah.
This is, I encourage everyone to come if possible, please.
Right. I'm going to give.
They might even censor this broadcast.
They might very well. We'll see. They may block it. Unlike normal, what I'm going to do when I'm doing the broadcast, I'm going to be recording it myself. So I will always have the recording on my own computer of the broadcast in case it is blocked. If it is, I will probably continue to repost it, or at least to make it available to people to watch. But anyway, it's going to be an incredible broadcast, and I'm going to encourage the rabbi to speak his mind openly. This should be something that you're just never going to forget.
Invite your friends, especially the Jewish friends that you may have. And if you don't have Jewish friends, find your friends who have Jewish friends and let them know. This will be an honor you cannot believe.
Right. Let everybody know. Let everybody know. So Shoshi Randall is my dear sister and friend who is going on a vacation very soon. is kind enough to do all of my Facebook reminders for me. She set that one up the other day. So if you haven't signed up yet, please please contact Shoshi Randalls on Facebook, friend her, and she will make sure that you get the invitations to the upcoming broadcast of me, as well as Rabbi Ariel Nachman Ben Chaim, the House of Seven Beggars, so that you can stay in touch with everything that we're doing. Rabbi Bernard and I have been trying to set this up for literally 2 or 3 years. There's always been technical issues. He has agreed to do as many broadcasts with me as I want. So we are deep supporters of each other. We love each other's work, and this first broadcast will probably not be our only one with Rabbi Bernard. An incredible, incredible man. So that's going to be next Monday. So that's going to be next Monday at 8 p.m. Pesach, thank you so much. I'm glad I finally got you on as well. You also have been a friend of mine for a number of years. And I have often thought I wanted to get you on, but it just, the timing of things just never quite worked out. With the rise of anti-Semitism that's happening right now in the United States Congress, I have been trying to avoid 9/11 issues and even mainly the border issues and all that, because I thought it's being covered elsewhere. But considering what's happening now between the wall and the fact that we now have outspoken anti-Semites in the Congress, in the House of the United States government speaking out, I feel like I need to get some of this material.
Minnesota, where we have that fellow that is Somi or something like that.
Yeah.
He no longer talks in English. He says, my language is Tsunami, and you better learn to speak that.
I know. So
I do know one thing. Rashida Taibi, it's going to be a very contested race. She's going to have a primary challenge. It's going to be a very heavy one.
You were talking about going there and running against her. Have you changed your mind about that?
It depends. From what I'm hearing, there are like 2 or 3 other people that might run against her.
Okay. All right. Anyway, we're overtime now. So thank you all so much. God bless you. God keep you. And may God cause his face to shine evermore upon each and every one of you. Unless something happens, Pesach will be back with us next Wednesday. In the credits, you will see the links and the times for all of my broadcasts. Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Pesach. Thank you, everybody who's watching us. I didn't go through and welcome everybody this time like I usually did. I apologize, but I appreciate all of you being here, all of your comments, and so on. So God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bezrat Hashem.
Open up your eyes, see the beauty around you, and open up your ears and hear nature calling you, and open up your heart and feel the love he has for you, and open up your hand and give to the one who needs you. We got so much to do. The day is here for you. We got mitzvahs to do. That's all we got to do. And if you're feeling down, don't be alarmed. Just look to the one above and ask him for his love. For the secret to success is being very strong, knowing deep down inside that you're not at all alone. Imbue it with infinite wisdom and open up your spirit and catch its inspiration, and open up your soul to its spiritual liberation, and open up yourself to the way you should be living.
I hear you going.
We got
Hang
so
on.
much to do. The day is here for you. We got mitzvahs to do. That's all we got to do. And if you're feeling good, don't change your mood. Just look to the one above. Thank him for his love. For the secret to success is being very strong and knowing deep down inside he's helped you all along. You're not at all alone. Open up your eyes, see the beauty around you, and open up yourself to the way you should be living.